Next thing we find, verse 16. What strength he has in his loins. What power in the muscles of his belly. So in his torso area, your loins are kind of from your knee on up to about your mid-belly area. And he's got, in his belly area, he's got his strength there. This guy is really strong. He's beefy. He's got a lot of mass to him, and in that he's got a lot of strength. So, second thing we find out, he's got a powerful, large, muscular torso. This is a large animal. Verse 17. So, we've got those two things still. Does that fit with an elephant or a hippopotamus? No?
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it does.
But
Elephants are pretty beefy. They got a big midsection. They got a lot of power to them. They can knock over trees. Yeah, they're pretty strong. Hippopotamuses, they're fat.
That's all you got to say about it.
What?
they're very deadly.
They are. They're very vicious. Hippopotamuses can be very vicious. Is it hippopotamuses or hippopotami? I'm going to say hippopotamuses just because it sounds cool. Alright, verse 17. His tail sways like a cedar.
I don't think it's an elephant.
Okay. He's got a tail like a cedar. What do you know about cedar trees? They're huge. They're huge. Have you ever seen the tail on an elephant? It's a deep tail.
Hippos don't have tails.
And hippos, yeah, it might be about that long.
About that wide?
That does not remind me of a cedar tree, folks.
Well, it could be if it was wider.
Yeah, Claudia.
So it says like the whole tail thing doesn't match you very well.
Yeah.
And then later it says like stuff about it being like hiding in the marsh and like if you read.
Yep, we're going to get to that. Very good.
On the footnote, it says possibly a trunk for that.
Possibly a trunk? Yeah.
It says tail.
It says tail.
Yeah.
Unless his trunk's on his butt. I don't think so.
Yeah, because we have very small cedar trees.
He's going backward. So, no. He's got a tail like a cedar tree. In fact, he's going to talk about that a little bit. What power in the muscles of his belly, which are already, oh no, I'm sorry. The sinews of his thighs are close knit. So he's got very strong thighs, very muscular thighs. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like rods of iron. He has very strong, very large bones. So this is not a small creature. He ranks first among the works of God, yet his Maker can approach him with his sword. The hills bring him their produce, and all the wild animals play nearby. So, I don't have this up there, but the wild animals play nearby, so he's friendly. He's docile. He feeds on grass, but he's docile. He's not a real aggressive creature.
Not a hippo.
So it's probably not a hippo. Under the lotus plants he lies, he hides among the reeds in the marsh. So he lives in the marsh. Not an elephant. Elephants don't live in the water. Whatever this is likes to live in the marshy area. The lotuses conceal him in their shadow. The poplars by the stream surround him. Get a load of this. When the river rages, he is not alarmed. He is secure, though the Jordan should surge against his mouth. So, he's sitting there at the entrance to the Dead Sea of the Jordan, or he's sitting in the Jordan, and the Jordan's just rushing at him, and he's headlong upstream. Doesn't even care. Doesn't even bother him. That's not a hippo either. This whole thing floods in his mouth, and hey, that's cool. He doesn't care. It doesn't even faze him. Can anyone capture him by the eyes or trap him and pierce his nose? And that's a rhetorical question. The obvious answer is, no, Job, you can't do that. I'm so much bigger. But I can. And that's what God's point is there. My personal thinking of the description of tail like a cedar and huge torso and strong thighs, large bones, lives in the marsh, is that it might be something like this.
A bump on the head.
Maybe with a bump on the head, yes.
Aren't they supposed to be not real?
The brontosaurus is not real, but if you add a longer nose, it would be an apatosaurus. If you add a bump on the head, it would be a brachiosaur. So the body structure, actually, the reason they're not real is because the guy who found the body of the brontosaurus and named it the brontosaurus actually put a head on it from another find of bones that he found like a state away.
Wow.
So, yeah, but the body is right. The body is real. The body is real. So when they say the brontosaurus isn't real, yes and no. I mean, the body is real. It's just a different head. So the same thing. Now let's take a look in chapter 41. Can you pull in the Leviathan with a fish hook? Okay, first of all, not a good idea. Don't attempt that. Or tie down his nose with a rope. Remember, we're evaluating this. Is this crocodile or alligator? Can you put a cord through his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he keep begging you for mercy? Will he speak to you with gentle words? Will he make an agreement with you for you to take him as your slave for life? Can you make a pet of him, like a bird? And I love this. I love the sarcasm. God has such a sense of humor. Or put him on a leash for your girls.
I wouldn't even if it were an alligator.
Yeah. I think Joel said that he's seen a girl walk an alligator before. So that is possible.
What? Where?
Florida.
You can subdue an alligator. They do it all the time in these places in Florida and stuff where they got gator wrestling and and out in the outback and stuff like that. You can subdue an alligator. He says you can't subdue this guy. Can you make a pet of him like a bird? Verse 6, will traders barter for him? Verse 7, can you fill his hide with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? Again, this is a rhetorical question that the answer is meant to be no. You can do that with an alligator or a croc. You could fill him with fishing spears or harpoons quite easily. You harpoon a crocodile, he's done. This creature, it isn't going to harm you. This is a bad boy. Verse 8, if you lay a hand on him, you'll remember the struggle and never do it again. You're not going to want to do that again. Any hope of subduing him is false. The mere sight of him is overpowering. No one is fierce enough to rouse him. Who then is able to stand against me? Okay, first of all, we see that he's talking about pulling him in with a fish hook. So this creature lives in the sea, lives in the water. We also see that he's terrifying and fierce. No one is fierce enough to rouse him. Who then is able to stand against me? Okay, then he goes further on down, verse 12. I will not fail to speak of his limbs, his strength, and his graceful form. Who can strip off his outer coat? Who would approach him with a bridle? In other words, you're not going to go ride this thing. You're not going to put a bridle and a bit in his mouth and a bridle and ride this thing. It's not going to happen. Who dares open the doors of his mouth? Ringed about with fearsome teeth. So he's got a lot of teeth all the way around his mouth. However shaped the mouth is, if it's long like a crocodile, crocodiles would fit that description. They'd fit that description, they'd fit that description. They somewhat dwell in the water, so...
A crocodile is salt water, so it's seawater.
It's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile. One's in salt water, one's in fresh.
That and their mouth, their muzzles.
Yeah, the shape of their mouth. But they both have teeth around the whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, the harpoons thing just doesn't fit. Verse 15. His back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between. They are joined fast to one another. They cling together and cannot be parted. Number 4, guys. Armor-plated scales. Armor-plated scales. So these got scales on the back. You can't even put air between them. That's how tight they are. This guy's like wearing his own armor.